Hey y'all, it's Shania, and I am back with another word. Listen, yes, I'm outside the corner store because I got my daughter and my brother. We went to the park. They're tailgating out here because the football players, the little kid football players, must have won their games or whatever. Maybe the season is over. So they tailgating. Everybody out here. They got food. They got darn bouncy houses. Everybody going crazy. And I wanted to give y'all this word, so I needed to come to a place that was a little bit more quiet. Listen, y'all. So I was out getting my phone fixed, my other phone fixed today. And I went to this place, the cell phone shop. Now, the people who own the cell phone shop, they are from Sudan, Africa, right? So these gentlemen were at the shop. Me and the one who was servicing me, we got to talking. You know I'm finna talk about Jesus. You know we got to talk about Jesus. So we began to talk about the Lord. And we getting into it, everything like that. So he sees my arm, my tattoo. He's like, "What's up with the tattoo?" I was like, "Yeah, that was before Jesus had got me." He was like, "Yeah." He started talking about Adam and Eve, and I said, "Nah, this ain't got nothing to do with Adam and Eve. This that snake that was on that pole." He was like, "Oh, that was that snake that was on that pole." I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "You know what? You're right." He was like, when I think of snakes, I never really think about. I always think about Adam and Eve, but I never really thought about that the snake that was on that pole, and that snake means healing." And I said, "Period." Now, we getting into it. He was like, "You know that the snake in Adam and Eve," he was like, "the reason that the snake was allowed to trick her and deceive her was because her and the snake was close. They was friends." And I was like, He's like, "You know the things that are the closest to you are the things that can deceive you." And I was like, "You ain't never lied." So I'm sitting here really thinking about, I was like, where you got that interpretation from? Like, I really want to go further into it. He says, if you read Genesis, if you really, really read it, it'll sit here and tell you what you need to know. I've been thinking about that all day. And if you really sit here and read Genesis, God created Adam because there was no one to tend to the fields. Once he created Adam, he told Adam to tend to the fields, and also it says in the Bible, he brought the animals to him, so that whatever he wanted to name them, that's going to be their name. So mind you, Adam knew and was communicating with every single animal. And you think that if a snake can talk and that we can understand a snake, that means that he could communicate with all animals. You got to put all these things together, right? And if after that he created Eve to be a helpmate, that means that her job was the same thing that his job was, to tend to the field and to make sure that the animals and everything were okay. Because you have to remember that the fields and things, that was the animals' home. That's how they ate, that's how they survived, that's where they lived. So not only were they tending to the fields and stuff for themselves, no, they were tending to the fields for everything that inhabited the fields. Let's keep following me. So you have to realize that if Eve is his helpmate, that means that her job is his job. His job is her job as well. Meaning that she can understand the animals as well. She has the responsibility of making sure that the environment is conducive to life for them. So you have to also assume that if Adam had to meet all these animals to give them a name, that means that he knows them. If God knows every single hair on your head, if God knows every single person on this earth, when he gave Adam the job of knowing every single animal and naming every single animal, that means that Adam had to get to know them, which means that Eve had to get to know them. So you have to assume, right? If you're putting all this stuff together, you can almost assume that Eve knows the character, Eve knows the habits, Eve knows what they need to survive. Eve knows where they live. Eve knows all these things. Yet and still, what's up, neighbor? Yet and still, she gets deceived. Yes, so she gets deceived by the snake. How? Because it says in the Bible that the snake was the most cunning. He was deceitful. He was sneaky. He was sly. So meaning that he can give off this energy at one point, and then at the other point, he can be a whole different person. It's almost like camouflaging. So again, you have to assume, we always think about Adam and Eve in that story as it's just the first time she meeting this snake, and it's random, and he just, deceive her. She ain't never been in a situation like this. This was her job was to know these animals. Her job was to provide for these animals, whether you know it or not, whether you putting it together or not. Listen, y'all, I'm kind of going down a darn wormhole, and this is my sign to read the Bible over from the beginning, because you don't understand certain stuff until you understand it and really put it into perspective. But y'all, Eve was not mistaken by this snake. If her job is to know these animals, she knew what the snake was like. She wasn't like, oh my gosh, there's a snake. I was overwhelmed. When this girl became naked for the first time, in the Bible it explained they were overwhelmed. They were hiding themselves. This wasn't her first time talking to a snake, because she didn't act like it. This wasn't her first time speaking to this snake in particular. Nothing like that. Listen, the real message for this today is the thing that's closest to you, or the thing that even God has sent you to pour into, put a foundation into. He has put you in charge of. There are pieces of this thing that can come back around, and they can deceive you. The things that you're closest to can deceive you. God probably put you in a certain job, but there's a piece and part of this job that can deceive you. So, for tonight, I need you guys to realize that, what's up? I need you guys to realize that not everything is as it seems. It's not. And that y'all really need to really get into y'all Bibles, because there's no reason that I shouldn't have got this myself. There's no reason. But I didn't. And that's why we here as a community, because we got to sharpen each other. We got to get it together. So I love y'all. Read your Bibles. Really read your Bibles and really understand. Put stuff together. Make it make sense. Like, that made so much sense, and I never even heard it. Y'all, I got to get me a Hebrew Bible. I got to get me the original Bible. Jesus. I love y'all. Have a good night.